Every month starts with a promise to yourself. This time, I'll save more. You cut back on a few things, you try to be disciplined, and yet by the end of the month, the same question comes back: where did all my money go? No luxury splurge, no big ticket expense, just a slow leak that empties your account without you realizing it. And the strange part, you can't even point to when it happened. A dinner here, a ride there, a quick delivery order, all just that taps on a screen. Small, painless transactions that vanish before your mind can even register them. The problem isn't that you are spending recklessly. The problem is that money today has become invisible. There is no moment where you can actually feel it leave your hand. No sharp pause that forces you to account for what's gone. And when that moment of awareness disappears, discipline disappears with it. Think about it. You don't even remember the last 5 UPI payments you made today. Was it chai? Was it groceries or a quick cab? The amounts blur into each other, and that blur is dangerous. Because what you can't consciously register, you can't consciously control. That is why so many of us, despite higher incomes and better access to financial tools, still feel broke month after month. Because the very apps and cards that promised us convenience here are silently draining our sense of control. Chapter 1: Disappearance of Physical Money. Not too long ago, money was something you could touch. A crisp 500 rupee note, a stack of coins, or even the empty space in your wallet. All of it gave you a direct sense of how much you had and how much you had lost after a purchase. That physicality created a natural boundary. Each time you pulled out cash, you were forced to confront the transaction. Paying for a taxi or a restaurant bill wasn't just about the exchange, it was about the act of parting with something visible, something finite. And that moment, as simple as it sounds, acted as a powerful psychological check. Now, I'm not saying that the money was designed this way, it was supposed to be this way, but that is how it just worked. Fast forward to today, the money has become weightless. With UPI, debit cards, and especially credit cards, the act of paying has been stripped of its friction. A quick tap, a QR scan, or a swipe, and the money is gone, but you never truly see it leave. Your balance isn't shrinking in front of your eyes, your wallet is getting thinner. And because nothing feels lost in the moment, nothing feels like it needs to be controlled. This is why so many people look back at the end of the month and wonder, where did all my money go? It's not just about higher prices or lifestyle creep, it's about the disappearance of that physical signal, that instant feedback loop that cash once provided. When money was tangible, it was trackable. Now in the digital world, money is invisible, and with invisibility comes detachment. You don't notice the slow drip of dozens of microtransactions, and by the time you do, your bank balance has already absorbed the damage. The disappearance of physical money didn't just make transactions easier, it quietly made self-control harder. Chapter 2: The Psychology of Frictionless Spending. What's behind a rising cost using UPI or credit cards beyond convenience is a psychological shift rooted in behavioral economics, the near total elimination of the pain of paying. A 2025 study coined the term called spendception, illustrating how digital payment systems make spending feel almost like it didn't happen, leading people to spend more without noticing the financial impact of it. In behavioral terms, cash activates a visceral sense of loss, mental discomfort that restrains spending. Digital payments, by contrast, removes that brake entirely. Supporting this, research in India found that roughly 75% of UPI users reported increased spending, often blaming UPI's intangible nature, which diminishes the feelings of guilt attached to spending as the culprit. The experimental evidence from elsewhere backs this up. A field study comparing cash versus mobile payments in Chinese supermarkets revealed that mobile users not only spent more, they also expressed a higher willingness to pay per item, especially for elastic goods. Going further back, a 2001 MIT experiment found that participants were willing to bid nearly double when using credit cards compared to cash. Neuroscience insights explain why. Digital payments dull the insula's pain of payment signal while amplifying the activation in the brain's reward center. The nucleus accumbens, making purchases feel easier than they are. International studies also reinforce this so-called cashless effect. The University of Adelaide discovered that people tend to spend more, especially on these status-driven purchases, when paying by card rather than cash. Physical money makes spending more salient, more noticeable, and thus easier to control. All of this actually ties back to the concept of something called mental accounting. Richard Thaler and others have revealed that we compartmentalize money into categories. When we swipe a card, that 500 doesn't feel like a loss from our cash envelope, but a minor increase on a pre-existing digital balance, making it psychologically easier to spend. Now, combining all of these insights, Spendception shows how digital makes spending forgettable. UPI-specific data confirms increased spending linked to intangible payments. Experiment and neuro studies reveal how the brain's pain response is muted. Mental accounting explains why digital transactions slip under our radar. In effect, removing friction doesn't just smooth transaction, it also smooths out our self-control, and that is why we spend more than we intend to without even realizing. Chapter 3: The Credit Card Trap. When we talk about credit card traps, the conversation always jumps to the extreme. The people who default on payments and end up paying 40 to 45% interest a year. But let's set them aside for a moment. I'm not talking about them here. Because the truth is, even if you are one of those responsible cardholders who always pays the bill in full, you're not immune. In fact, you might already be quieter, more invisible trap. And here is how it works. Say your statement is generated on the 18th of month and the payment due date is the 7th of the next month. That's about 18 to 19 days of grace period that you usually get where you don't have to pay anything because you're not paying your bill technically the moment the bill has been generated. And because you know that you have this buffer, you start to play a subtle mental game with yourself that I can always pay later. I have got almost 3 weeks or 2 weeks. That single thought changes your relationship with money. Instead of treating each transaction as an immediate cost, you can begin treating it as a delayed one. The purchase is made, but the pain of paying is postponed. And when the pain is postponed, discipline is postponed with it. Over time, this delay becomes a habit. You start revolving money, not in the technical sense of rolling over debt, but in the psychological sense of always having pending obligations that don't feel urgent. The gap of those 18 days becomes a blind spot where you allow yourself to spend more freely. Think about it. Would you order that extra gadget, book that impulsive trip, or splurge on an expensive dinner if money left your account instantly? Maybe not. But when you know you have weeks before the cash actually moves, the decision feels lighter in your heart, in your brain. And research actually supports this. Behavioral economist calls this as temporal discounting, the tendency to underestimate costs that are delayed in time. A bill 18 days away simply doesn't hurt as much as money leaving your bank today. And so even the most disciplined credit card users, the one who never pays interest, is still being nudged to spend more than they otherwise would. Not because they're reckless, not because they lack self-control, but because the system is designed to exploit the psychological loophole of delayed pain. The credit card trap isn't just about debt, it's about habit. And habits over the years are what quietly decide whether you grow wealthy or stay stuck. Now, coming to chapter 4, the savings crisis. If digital spending is eroding your self-control, the macro numbers tell a wider story. It's also eroding a nation's capacity to save. Let's look at the figures. Household savings in India have been on a steep downward path. In FY24, our household savings shrunk to just 18.1% of GDP, a 3-year low and a concerning decline from a decade ago average of over 23%. That's mirrored in gross domestic savings, which fell from 32.2% of GDP in FY15 to 30.7% in FY24. The situation is even more alarming when we focus solely on net household financial savings, the money families actually lay aside after accounting for liabilities. RBI data shows that this dipped to around 5.1% of GNDI in 23-24, only a modest rise from the previous year's low of 4.9% and far from levels seen earlier in the decade. One analyst puts net household savings in FY23 at just 5.3% of GDP, the lowest in nearly 50 years. Now, what's driving this stark drop? It's a twofold problem. Households are saving less and borrowing more. Household financial liabilities have ballooned to around 6 to 6.2% of GDP, nearly double the levels seen a decade ago. As a fresh CareEdge report notes, credit over caution, households are relying more on loans and credit tools and less on building genuine savings. The implications ripple beyond individual bank accounts. A weaker savings base undermines financial resilience, leaving families and the economy more exposed to shocks. RBI has signaled this alarm. Household debt to GDP rose from 36% to 42% over 2 years, and credit card borrowing surged from nearly 50% in 3 years. What is striking is that this crisis arrives at the time of strong growth. Goldman Sachs projects that if household financial savings average 13% of GDP in the coming decade, India could channel $9.5 trillion into financial assets, fueling growth, stability, and upward mobility. That's not a dream, it's a real opportunity powered by disciplined saving. Meanwhile, households have shifted their asset mix. Traditional vehicles like FDs are losing charm. Instead, savers are moving into equities, mutual funds, high return debt based instruments. Riskier but potentially more rewarding, the RBI governor framed this as a healthy sign of growing financial sophistication. Now, household savings are falling fast, now well below historic averages. Net household financial savings are critically low, debt is rising, and the buffer that savings offer is shrinking even as income rises. But there is a silver lining. If disciplined saving returns, India's households can become powerful drivers of future wealth. Chapter 5: Building Digital Discipline. By now, the picture is clear. The disappearance of physical money, the psychology of frictionless spending, and the quiet credit card trap, all of these have converged into one outcome: a saving crisis. But here's the truth most people miss. UPI and credit cards aren't the enemy, they are just tools. And like any tool, their impact depends on how you use them. The problem isn't technology, the problem is the absence of discipline in a system designed to make you forget discipline. Obviously, it is driving your savings away, but you'll have to learn, you'll have to recognize that this is happening with you, and you'll have to make changes accordingly. So, how do you take back that control? Number one, recreate the pain of paying. Studies show that seeing money leave your hand makes spending harder. In a cashless world, you have to build that friction yourself. One way is to set up weekly budgets inside UPI apps, say 5,000 food deliveries, 2,000 for cabs, and stick to it. When the cap is hit, you stop. The digital stop mimics the boundary cash once cash used to give. Number two, use credit cards as debit cards with benefits. Never revolve. Always pay in full on autopay. And more importantly, set a mental trick. Whenever you swipe 1,000 rupee, immediately transfer 1,000 into a card repayment account. You'll feel the cost today, even though the bank will bill you weeks later. Number 3, respect the 48-hour rule. Impulse is the enemy of savings because making any non-essential purchase above a set limit, which is 3,000, 5,000, you can decide, wait 2 days. Research shows that cooling off period / impulse buys by half. Many wants vanish once the initial excitement fades. Number 4, track invisibility with visibility. If money has become invisible, your job is to make it visible again. Use a simple expense tracker or even a notebook. Every UPI or card transaction is written down. The act of recording recreates awareness. Without awareness, savings are impossible. It is better to even, I would say, track it in an Excel sheet if you have to. Number 5, automate your savings, not just your payments. Most people auto-pay bills, few auto-saves. Flip that. The moment your salary hits, set a standing instruction that 20 to 30% directly inflows into your mutual fund, SIP, an index ETF, or even a recurring deposit. If money leaves before you can spend it, your lifestyle would adjust automatically, psychologically as well. Number 6, remember, credit is not equal to cash. That 18-day grace period is a psychological trick. Don't see it as free money, see it as borrowed time. If you wouldn't make the purchase with money leaving your account today, chances are you shouldn't make it at all. Because ultimately, discipline isn't about saying no to technology, it's about saying no to the illusions technology creates. The winners in this cashless era won't be the ones who master every new app, they will be the ones who master themselves. So that's it, guys. I hope you liked the video. Do subscribe to the channel. Do share your experience in the comments, what you agree with, what you don't agree with, and share your thoughts below. Thank you.